Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. Some stories hit you like a truck. Mine? It just whispered and then detonated. I didn't plan to leave the party. I didn't even want to go. But I did what I always do. I said yes. Because that's what I've become in this relationship. The guy who nods. The guy who follows. The guy who doesn't want to cause a scene. The invitation came earlier that week. Some rooftop mixer thrown by her coworker's fiancé. The kind of sleek, curated evening where people wear shoes they can't walk in and talk like their lives are PR campaigns. She said it would be good for us. Not me. Not her. So I went. Like a good accessory. Pressed shirt. Clean shave. Smile rehearsed. From the moment we stepped out of the Uber, she switched into performance mode. Laughing too loudly. Hugging people like she hadn't seen them in years. I tried to catch her eye during the elevator ride up, but she was already texting. I knew I was invisible before we even hit the rooftop. And once we did, it got worse. I wasn't her husband. I wasn't even her +1. I was a placeholder in a suit. She drifted off, greeted by waves of Cass and cheek kisses. I stood there, still holding her clutch because she didn't want to carry it. No one talked to me, and I mean no one. I stood next to the champagne bucket long enough for a waitress to assume I worked there. At one point, I watched her across the patio. She was with a group near the fire pit. One of the guys, tall, smooth, smug, leaned into her ear and said something. She laughed and touched his forearm. I hadn't seen her touch me like that in months. I checked my watch. I checked the time again 5 minutes later. The same glass of rose sat untouched in my hand, getting warm. And then I left. No drama. No goodbye. Just a quiet walk down the stairs while laughter echoed behind me. I didn't cry in the car. Not at first. But when I saw my reflection in the rearview mirror, this guy who used to believe he was someone's favorite person, something cracked. And then it buzzed. My phone. Her name on the screen. One message. One word. Come. She didn't say sorry. She didn't ask where I went. Just, come. And the worst part? I put the car in reverse. I wish I could tell you I didn't turn around. That I drove off, reclaimed my pride, and started healing. But no, I'm not that guy. I put the car in reverse and drove straight back. Like a fool. Like a dog that doesn't even know it's being kicked. My heart pounded as I stepped back into the building, taking the elevator alone this time. The air inside felt heavier, like it knew I wasn't supposed to be there. Maybe I should have taken that as a sign. The rooftop hadn't changed. Music still pulsed, glasses clinked, and Cassidy, my wife, was laughing again with the same group of people. When she saw me, she lit up like I was the one who disappeared without warning. She didn't run to me, didn't pull me aside. She simply waved, then motioned for me to come over like I was late to some casual dinner. And like an idiot, I obeyed. She said, "There you are. I was wondering where you went." Like I had just taken a bathroom break. I stood there, stunned, while the guy next to her, the tall one from earlier, gave me a once-over and smirked like he knew something I didn't, or worse, like he knew everything I refused to admit. Cassidy didn't introduce me. She just kept chatting, sipping her drink, laughing too loud again. I stood at her side like I was holding up a wall, invisible and humiliated. She leaned toward me once to whisper, "Don't be weird, okay?" That's what shattered me more than anything. Not the ignoring, not the text. That, like I was the problem. Like my mere presence was awkward for her. I nodded, of course. I always nod. The guy, his name was Reese, apparently, leaned in and said, "Hey man, didn't even see you earlier." I wanted to say, "Yeah, nobody did." But instead I mumbled, "Yeah, I was here." He laughed and clinked glasses with Cassidy. Something in me wanted to scream. Instead, I excused myself. Again. I went back downstairs, this time to the alley beside the building. My hands were shaking. I leaned against a dumpster and tried to breathe. I texted her, "Why did you ask me to come back?" She replied almost instantly, "Because you're my husband." That's what she said. As if the word husband still meant something. As if it hadn't been slowly hollowed out for months while I wasn't looking. I didn't reply. I just sat on the cold pavement behind a building full of people pretending their lives were perfect, and realized mine was quietly falling apart in silence. I don't remember how long I sat outside. Long enough for my back to ache from the bricks. Long enough for the music upstairs to blur into background noise. I watched the lights of passing cars and wondered if any of them carried someone whose wife still noticed when they left the room. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was tired, in that quiet way that doesn't hit your body but drains your name from someone's mouth. Eventually, the metal door creaked open behind me. I didn't turn around. I already knew it was her. Cassidy stepped out, heels clicking on the pavement. She stood a few feet from me, arms crossed, clutching her phone like she'd rather be texting than talking. "Why'd you leave again?" she asked. Not softly, not with concern, just flat, like I'd inconvenienced her. I didn't answer right away. Couldn't. I just stared at the faded tattoo on the inside of my wrist. A tiny anchor I got before I met her. It used to mean stability. Now it just felt like weight. "You said come," I finally muttered. "But not once tonight did you make me feel like you wanted me there." She sighed. Not the emotional kind, the annoyed kind. "It was a party, Kevin. I can't babysit you the whole time." I flinched. "Babysit? God," she said, laughing under her breath. "You act like I left you in the corner with a juice box." Her words didn't even hurt. They just confirmed everything I'd been swallowing for the last year. I stood up slowly. "Do you even like me anymore?" That made her pause. Not because she didn't have an answer, but because she hadn't expected the question. She blinked at me, mouth slightly open, then looked away. "Don't be dramatic," which wasn't a no. She stepped closer. The rooftop music still floated faintly down from above, but the air between us felt louder. "Look, I'm sorry if I made you feel small. That's not what I wanted." I looked at her, really looked, and realized she hadn't apologized for what she did, only for how I felt about it. I nodded again, that same pathetic motion I'd mastered over time. Then she touched my chest lightly and said, "Come back upstairs. Let's just enjoy the rest of the night." It wasn't a request. It was a command wrapped in the illusion of care. And like a puppet, I followed. But the difference was, this time, I had a question building in my throat that wouldn't go away. Who was Reese, really? We went back upstairs like nothing happened. Cassidy walked ahead, her pace confident, her posture perfect. You'd never guessed that moments earlier. She had found her husband sitting beside a dumpster wondering if his marriage had quietly expired. I followed behind like luggage. Silent, heavy, and unimportant. When we stepped back onto the rooftop, the music hit me like a wall. The lights, the polished laughter, the fake smiles. It all felt louder now, like I'd been given backstage access to a show I didn't want to watch. Cassidy didn't reach for my hand. She didn't say, "This is Kevin," or loop her arm through mine. She just slipped back into her group like I was never gone. But I noticed something this time. Reese, the tall, overconfident guy, he didn't seem surprised to see me return. He gave me a smirk, a half nod, then looked back at her like I wasn't worth the space I took up. That's when I stopped pretending. I drifted near the fire pit, listening, watching. I caught fragments of conversations. Jokes about that Vegas trip. Laughter about some karaoke night I was never invited to. Cassidy's voice was louder now, not slurred, but looser, like she'd forgotten I was even within earshot. Then someone asked, "Wait, was that the night you and Reese?" And she shushed them, quick, panicked, glanced at me, then laughed it off like they'd confused her with someone else. But I saw the flash of something in her eyes. A crack. Guilt? Fear? Or worse, annoyance that I was still here. I walked up to her and said casually, "How do you know Reese again?" She blinked fast. "I told you, he's Anthony's friend." "No," I said. "You didn't tell me anything. You just told me to come." The table went quiet. Her fingers curled around her glass. "We worked together on that project last fall. That's all." But the hesitation was everything. I stared at her. "You mean the same fall you kept working late every week?" Her jaw tightened. "Kevin, not here." Reese stood up. Hey man, if you've got questions, just ask me. I don't hide anything. And that sentence made something snap in my chest. Because the only people who say that usually are. I didn't say another word at the fire pit. I didn't need to. Cassidy gave herself away the moment she froze between words. Her cool social mask cracked, just slightly, and I saw the real face behind it. Not guilt, but panic. The kind of panic that doesn't come from being misunderstood, but from being exposed. I stepped away. No shouting. No confrontation. Just distance. I didn't leave the party this time. I stayed, but I made sure she felt my absence while I was still in the room. I positioned myself by the far railing, overlooking the city skyline, acting like I belonged in my own silence. That's when a girl I didn't recognize approached me. Petite, straight brown hair, eyes sharp behind oversized glasses. "You're Cassidy's husband, right?" she asked. I nodded slowly. "And you are?" "Mallory. I work at her firm. Kind of new. Just started 2 months ago." She hesitated, then glanced over her shoulder. "I probably shouldn't say this, but you looked like you needed someone to not lie to you tonight." That sentence hit harder than anything Cassidy had said all evening. Mallory didn't smile. She didn't lean in or try to flirt. She just sighed and said, "There were rumors about her and Reese, but I didn't believe it until that work trip to Chicago last November. They weren't exactly discreet at the bar." My mouth went dry. "What do you mean, not discreet?" She looked me in the eye. "I mean, he kissed her, Kevin. In front of people. She told everyone you were taking a break. Said you were figuring things out." I stared at her, stunned. My throat tightened like it didn't know how to swallow truth. I thanked her quietly, and she touched my arm once, gently, before walking away. Cassidy didn't know I knew. Not yet. She was still laughing, still sipping her drink, still smiling at Reese like they weren't being watched anymore. But now they were. And for the first time in this entire evening, I didn't feel weak. I felt awake. She had texted me, "Come." She never expected I'd come back with answers. I stayed near the edge of the rooftop longer than I should have. Not because I was scared of confronting her, but because I didn't trust myself to stay calm once I did. I replayed Mallory's words in my mind on a loop, each time imagining a different version of the night in Chicago. Her laughing with him touching her lower back, her pretending I didn't exist. When I finally walked back toward the group, Cassidy's eyes landed on me, and something shifted. Her posture straightened. Her smile faltered. That's when I knew she could tell something was wrong. She's always been good at reading a room, and I wasn't hiding it anymore. She excused herself from the group and intercepted me before I could speak. "Hey," she said, gripping my arm. "Let's go talk somewhere quiet. Okay?" The smile on her face was soft, practiced. The same one she used on clients, waiters, hotel check-in staff. That smile had nothing to do with love. It was designed to control the situation. We ended up in a side hallway, near the service elevator. The music was duller here, the mood colder. "Are you okay?" she asked first, pretending to sound concerned. "You've been off tonight." I looked straight at her. "Did you tell people we were on a break last year?" Her eyes flicked away. Just for a second. But it was long enough. "What are you talking about?" she asked too quickly. "Chicago. The work trip. November." She didn't answer. Not right away. Her silence was louder than any confession. Then she scoffed, actually scoffed. "You're listening to Mallory? She barely knows me. She saw you kiss him, Cass." There it was, her panic, neatly hidden beneath a smirk. "We were drunk. It was a mistake. It meant nothing. I told you I was overwhelmed back then." "So you kissed a coworker and lied to everyone about us?" "No," she said sharply. "I didn't lie. I just didn't correct assumptions." That was it. That was her defense. Not denial. Not apology. Just justification. I felt something inside me crack. Not loudly. Not explosively. But quietly, like ice under pressure. She reached out. "Kevin, don't do this now. Not here. Let's go home and talk. But I didn't move. Couldn't. Because I'd realized something horrifying. She hadn't brought me to this party to include me. She brought me to silence the whispers. I didn't follow her when she turned to leave. I stayed in that dim hallway, eyes fixed on the spot she had just been standing, like her absence left behind something heavier than her presence ever did. I could hear the distant hum of voices and music from the rooftop, but it all sounded muffled now, like the air had decided I didn't belong in that world anymore. She had wanted control. That was clear. She thought dragging me to this party would neutralize the rumors, make her look like a devoted wife with a shy husband. I was never supposed to speak. I was supposed to smile, fade into the background, then go home with her quietly. Mission accomplished. But that version of me was dying. I stepped back out onto the rooftop like a man walking into a war zone after the first explosion. Cassidy was already back with the group, but this time I didn't go to her. I went to Reese. He looked surprised, but not threatened. That told me everything I needed to know. He didn't see me as competition, just a character in someone else's play. I need you to tell me the truth, I said calmly, but loud enough for others to hear. Chicago. Cassidy. Was it just a kiss? His expression didn't flinch, not even for a second. Man, you should talk to her about that. I am. Right now. In front of everyone. The crowd shifted. Heads turned. The music kept playing, but the energy changed. Cassidy froze mid-laugh. Her glass trembled slightly in her hand. Reese sighed and glanced at her. Cass, do you want me to lie, or? She hissed. Don't you dare. He looked back at me, shrugged, and said, it wasn't just a kiss. There it was, like a match to a curtain. The room didn't burn immediately, it just shifted. Cassidy stepped forward, grabbing my arm, her voice low and seething. You're embarrassing both of us. I didn't pull away. I didn't yell. I just leaned in and said quietly, you did that all on your own. The weight in her eyes said it all. Not regret, not remorse, just fury that the script didn't go her way. And for once, I wasn't the one shrinking under her disappointment. I walked to the door. People parted like I was contagious. No one tried to stop me, not even her. But what I didn't expect, not in a million years, was what she did the moment I stepped into the elevator. She ran after me. The elevator doors were nearly shut when I saw her silhouette dart forward. She slipped in just before they closed, breath uneven, cheeks flushed. Not from running, but from losing control. Cassidy stood in the corner, arms crossed tightly like she was shielding herself from me. But I wasn't a threat. I never was. I was the man who said yes too often, the man who waited to be chosen by someone already looking the other way. We rode down in silence. 10 floors. No words. Just the soft mechanical hum and the ghost of everything that used to be between us. When the doors opened, she didn't move. So I stepped out first. She followed me into the street, heels clacking behind me like guilt with rhythm. Kevin, wait. I turned, slowly. For what? She blinked. For you to listen. For us to fix this. I messed up. Okay? But you don't walk away from marriage because of one mistake. I let her words hang there. One mistake. The lie behind that number echoed louder than the words themselves. But instead of arguing, I exhaled. Not in anger, just release. I'm not walking away from marriage. I'm walking back to myself. Cassidy's face crumpled for the first time. Not angry. Not manipulative. Just lost. She whispered, so what now? I looked at her, the woman I thought was home, and I finally didn't feel small. Now I heal. I remember who I was before I forgot how to speak in my own marriage. She didn't follow me after that. She just stood there under the city lights, watching something she thought she owned finally walk away. 3 months later, I moved to a quiet town outside Willow Bend. Different air. Fewer rooftop parties. I picked up drawing again. I joined a small bookstore's weekly poetry group. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But for the first time in years, I laugh without waiting for approval. I breathe without shrinking. Cassidy sent me an email once. She said she hoped I was happy. I didn't reply. Not because I was bitter, but because I was happy. And sometimes silence is the clearest answer. Thanks for watching this story unfold on Reddit Confessions. If you've ever experienced a moment when you finally chose yourself after being forgotten, or witnessed a turning point in someone else's life, we'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment below sharing the most shocking or life-changing historical event you've ever read about. We feature our favorites in future videos. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true confessions. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and always listen to your gut.